Here in full is the calendar that you can expect from Ferrari Challenge this year. With Monza, we've been to. We're here at Mugello. Up next is the Hungaroring, then to the Paul Ricard circuit in France, Imola, Valencia, and the Grand World Finals venue and date still to be confirmed. Safety car will peel away, and we will be away and racing. There you can see the marshal on the left-hand side, which is instructing the drivers to get up into grid order. And once they've formed that, the anxiety and tension in the Ineco MP garage there, as Eric Prinot, their driver, going from P2 on the grid. Head down towards the final turn. The Bucina turn. All into grid order. Safety car peels off. It's now the responsibility of the front row of the grid then to control this formation lap. We throw the lights up to the top of the screen for you. Lights are red currently. If the race steward is happy with the way the grid has lined up, he will release them and he'll allow them to go and race. 35 minutes go on the clock. Eric Prinot and Thomas Loflad backing them up. We go green and racing. Race 3 across the series for Copa Shell. Great start, looked like, from Thomas Loflad. Also a brilliant start too from Jacques Diver, as Eric Prinot could be hung out to dry here and may lose a place. No, Eric Prinot maintains the speed and he's got the grip in that car all the way around the outside, manages to hold on to P2 and is now challenging for P1. So Jacques Diver, despite his best efforts, as Eric Chung is up to P4. Von Skeltermar also the man trying to make a move, so too is Gautam Singhania. The orange, white and green colours of Gautam Singhania, but it is Thomas Loflad who leads them all away. See from on board the Jacques Diver car, Eric Prinot had just got so much grip there and just held on to the outside line there, as there was a huge seeming lock-up from Thomas Loflad. You could see the rubber being laid down. So through sector 1, Loflad, Prinot, then it's Diver and Eric Chung. Eric Prinot now beginning to turn the wick up on Thomas Loflad. As you can see, he's pressuring him. Jacques Diver is under pressure from Eric Chung. It's a real rejuvenated Eric Chung that we're seeing racing at the moment. He's been involved in the Ferrari Challenge across Asia Pacific for many years, and has also been taking part in the European Challenge too, and is a very welcome addition. A huge Ferrari nut is Eric Chung. So through sector 2, the order remains the same across the top 4. And just for the moment, Thomas Loflad has unseized Eric Prinot. Eric Chung taking a different line through there, and needs to just be careful. Hannah is right behind him as they complete the first lap here. And Eric Chung now trying to get right alongside Jacques Diver. Front 2 are beginning to peel away just a little bit, unthreatened by the baying pack behind. And now Jacques Diver is in defensive mode, because he has Eric Chung really charging hard. His rearview mirror is full of the red 458 of Eric Chung in P4 at the moment. Every which way, Eric is looking to try and find a way past and through. But as Florian Merckx said in our pre-program piece, it's difficult to overtake here at Mugello. We're on board with Jacques Diver now. Kisses the apex perfectly. Will do the same for the right-hander here. Back on the power he goes, and you can see, and he can see, that Eric Prinot and Thomas Loflad are beginning just to get away from him now into the downhill section. I mentioned it's very undulating, this circuit. Lots of uphill and downhill sections. And, well, the battle for third position between Jacques Diver and Eric Chung, perhaps the closest at the front end of the pack at the moment. There is Eric Prinot, who is not quite on terms with Thomas Loflad. Now, Hannah will come under pressure from Gautam Singhania. And so too, remaining under pressure is Jacques Diver, who is P3. And Eric Chung is keeping him keen, that's for sure. Tani Hanna in P5. As Gautam Singhania as now diving up the inside, very nearly of Eric Chung, is Tani Hanna. If Tani Hanna can hold on to this, Eric Chung had got the better line through the last turn here. And this is just playing into the hands of Jacques Diver a little bit. Because Jacques Diver is able to get up the road and allow the Eric Chung car to defend Tani Hanna. As out wide and sideways goes Gautam Singhania through a cloud of dust. Singhania rejoins right in front of, I think that was Manuela Gosner. There is Christian Kinch. Beg your pardon, I think it was Christian Kinch that he dived out in front of, throwing gravel all over the track. Just carried too much speed in there and turned in, but was always going to run wide. It was a good save from Gautam Singhania, to be fair. And also going out, that's Christian Hobone. And there you can see the gravel rattling across the front of the back-to-guard Christian Kinch car, and out big time and stuck in the gravel now is the car of Murat Rui Kuhadrogo. And that means a yellow flag at turn one. Now that car is embedded in the gravel. That's certainly not coming out of there. In the meantime, Eric Prinot and Thomas Loflad continue to be untroubled. And Thomas Loflad at the moment really is untroubled. Eric Prinot is, well, within 8/10, I suppose, but Loflad is just building up a little bit of a cushion. And in turn, Jacques Diver is some 3 seconds behind. So this in replay then, as the 157 car of Tani Hanna just picked up a little bit of gravel. Here comes our leading pair then. And Prinot, for my money, is getting closer now to Thomas Loflad. Gap is down to 3/10. So the fight is on at the front now. Thomas Loflad will have to go back into defensive mode. Try and make that 458 as wide as he can. Can't do anything through turn one. Yellow flag is at turn one. So Loflad from Eric Prinot P2, then it's Diver Chung. Tani Hanna is P5, von Skeltermar P6, Thomas Gosner is P7, Paul van Leeuwenhout P8, P9 is Gautam Singhania, and Tommy Lindroth rounds out the top 10 in P10. There is the von Skeltermar car that we were talking about, battling for P5. He's currently P6. He has Tani Hanna ahead of him. Here comes our pair at the front then, who've broken away from the pack quite comfortably. The fastest lap from Thomas Loflad was a 1:56.501, which came on the second lap of the race. Von Skeltermar looking very racy now. Tani Hanna has got his rearview mirror full of the shark's teeth on the front of the von Skeltermar car. And 1:59.421 from Tani Hanna, as you could see on screen. Here too, the battle for P3 between Jacques Diver and Eric Chung. Jacques Diver driving for the Kessel Racing Team, Eric Chung for AF Corsa. And Eric Chung is right on the back of Jacques Diver now. And so too, von Skeltermar on the back of Tani Hanna also. Yellow flag remains in turn one, which means nothing, no overtaking certainly in that sector. So across the line they go, P1 and P2. Heavy braking. Yellow flag from the turn one sector has gone now. And Prinot dancing all over the back of the Thomas Loflad car, just to try and worry him, just to try and outpsych him if he possibly can. Also trying to be outpsyched here is Jacques Diver, and Eric Chung is doing his level best to do that. Von von Skeltermaar being warned about track limits. The area where track limits is the biggest problem here seems to be turn 11, which is through the Pelagio Scarperia turns. And now Eric Prinot, well, he's as close as he's been now to our race-leading car of Thomas Loflad. It's a question of it, when, not if, I think, that the overtake is going to try. But you did hear Florian Merck saying overtaking here at Mugello is crucially very, very difficult. That's why qualifying is so important. Over the last 3 laps, you can see the margin and how that has seesawed. Thomas Loflad for the Starlef Squadra Corsa team. Eric Prinot for the Ineco MP Racing team. As they head around the final sequence of turns, heading up towards the Bucina final turn now. Nothing changes, other than von Skeltermaar gets ever more racy on Tanni Hanna, which is the battle that we watch now around the Bucini turn. Fantastic to hear Jacques at work, and von Skeltermaar has got past Tanni Hanna. So I wondered whether von Skeltermaar was just lining up Tanni Hanna, and I don't know whether Tanni Hanna has got a little bit of a problem now because Thomas Gostner is right on him also. So von Skeltermaar goes through. We'll get a replay of that overtake. It was just beginning to develop when we crossed back to Jacques Diver. Sure enough, here it is. Well, proving that overtaking can happen here. Need a little bit of curb, a little bit of forceful ambition, and you can make it happen. Battle for first position remains as was, with Thomas Loflad leading Eric Prinot. But a change then for P5, with von Skeltermaar now P5, having muscled his way past Tanni Hanna. This little battle between Jacques Diver and Eric Chung, the white car and the red car that you can see now, appears to have dissolved a little bit. Undoubtedly, von Skeltermaar is able to get away now because Tanni Hanna is having to cope with the hard-charging Thomas Gostner now right behind him. That will play into the hands of von Skeltermaar, who'll be able to try and chase Eric Chung up the road, because Tanni Hanna will be busy defending this position from that driver, Thomas Gostner. It's the battle for P6. Is Thomas going to take a look up the inside now? Heavy braking from Tanni Hanna, heavy braking from Gostner as well. Eric Prinot again, he's right on the back now of Thomas Loflad, takes a look up the inside. There's a coming together and they both go round. P1 and P2. That was a bold and ambitious move from Eric Prinot. He manages to spin the car around. He's lost a whole bunch of places. Thomas Loflad is stuck out in the gravel, and where that car is, if he can't recover that from there, that will provoke a safety car. Have to say, I don't think that move was on. But you're a racing driver, you're going to go for any gap you possibly can. That's changed the face of this race now as Jacques Diver leads. So Diver leads, and there in the Kessel Racing and also the Starlef Squadra Corsa garages we look. Well, we get the thumbs up from Thomas Loflad, who's perfectly okay, but that car is really close to the side of the circuit. And I'd be amazed if a safety car wasn't called for that to be recovered. For the safety car to pace them around whilst they recover that car. The incident is going to be looked into. Quelle surprise. I'd like to see that again from a different angle, because I might be giving Eric an injustice here. Perhaps the gap was big enough for him to go for. Whoa, and a sideways moment there for Thomas Gostner. Don't quite know what that was all about, other than perhaps he just carried too much speed through the final Bucina turn and wasn't able to control it. Well, at the moment, everything is continuing Must say I am surprised by this. There's von Skeltermaat, who finds himself in a podium position now because he's P3. Because the race is being led by Jacques Diver. Oh, and also going round is Gautam Singhania. So, drive-through penalty being awarded to Eric Prinot, who managed to recover into P7. And there he was getting together with Gautam Singhania, and Gautam Singhania ends up turning around. Now, this is the replay of the incident from Jacques Diver, who thankfully had slowed down sufficiently because he'd got Eric Prinot pointing in the wrong direction, driving towards him. He'd got Thomas Loflad out on the gravel. So great reactions from Jacques Diver, who leads the race now. Come on, Jacques. And he's got a comfortable margin over Eric Chung as well. Some 2.5 seconds. In comes Manuela Gosner. And there is our race leader. So, Eric Prinot then has been awarded a drive-through penalty. He has to take that within 3 laps of that drive-through penalty having been awarded. Car number 192, which is our race-leading car, is being warned with regards to track limits through turn 11. Steady on, Jacques. There is Eric Chung, our P2 driver, and there is P3 von Skeltermaat. Only is he P3, he's the best gentleman driver as well, which means he would be on the podium effectively twice. Once for being P3, if it remains this way, and also for being the fastest gentleman also. So the cars we've lost, Thomas Loflad and Christian Hoboom, and Corinna Gosden now as well, with a problem with her car. Bit of smoke coming from the left-hand rear there, you may see. And there is certainly some damage on that front quarter also, as Corinna has sustained some damage on that car. Eric Prinot's still out there, not taking his drive-through penalty yet. There he is. And he's now following the Paul van Loonhout car. So Eric Prinot recovered to take up P7. Now, bear in mind going into this that Eric Prinot was leading the points. The battle for 6th position is academic because, to my knowledge, I don't think he's taken that drive-through penalty, and therefore the position he's showing in at the moment is purely academic. There, confirmation of the drive-through penalty. That has been awarded to car number 181, Eric Prinot, who is... Well... And now Paul van Loonhout's gone. Well... Tommy Lindroth goes through. Well, Paul van Loonhout, actually, I have to say, I don't know why really Eric was really battling with him, because he's got a drive-through penalty to take, and now van Loonhout is going down the order. Did he turn in on him? 6 of one, half a dozen of the other from that angle, to be fair. Eric did well to control it through the gravel, that's for sure. But he's down there now. He's actually P8, isn't he? Because he's behind Lindroth now. And with a drive-through penalty to serve also. And he chooses not to come in at this stage. So he's just ahead of Christian Kinch now. And he has Tommy Lindroth ahead of him. Jacques Diver is having a great time of it at the front. He's got a 3.5 second margin over Eric Chung, and Eric to the outside of Tommy Lindroth now. The first lap, we did see him have remarkable grip and traction through that turn 1, but not able to get past Tommy Lindroth on this occasion. Certainly very, very close to him. Wow. We've got 16.5 minutes of this race still to come. So the incident involving cars 181 and 113, which is the Eric Prinot Paul van Loonhout incident, which saw Paul van Loonhout turned around, that is going to be investigated as well. Race steward has got a fairly big book to go through at the end of this race, it has to be said. In terms of the investigations he's got to carry out. There, confirmation of what I've just been able to tell you. Eric Prinot's tyres look like they're shot to bits already, and we've still got 15 minutes to do. Now, he is going to have to serve this drive-through penalty. And by my reckoning, it's this lap that he's got to come in. Not sure. It's quite a long lap here. It's, you know, obviously jolly near 2 minutes a lap here at Mugello. So there the heat haze rising off the circuit. This is the battle for P9 between Peter Gurk, Kriton Lendodis, and Gautam Singhania, who's much further down the order than he would like to have seen himself. We've lost Corinna Gosner, Thomas Loflad, and Christian Hoboom. Paul van Lowenhout has also, as there Prinot gets the pit board to say in, got a box. As Christian Kinch tries to find a way past him and goes past him with relative ease. So clearly Eric's struggling with a car that he's not handling perhaps as well as it was, but had a few skirmishes along the way which have probably affected the handling of that car. So Christian Kinch goes up to P7. Eric Prinot's P8 is purely academic anyway, because he has got to come. This is the last lap with which he can serve that drive-through penalty. Von Skeltermar is closing in on Eric Chung. Fair near half the gap. And that's the battle for P2 that we're talking about, but the battle we're watching here is with the ill-handling Eric Prinot car, which is down there in P8, and Christian Kinch, which is P7. There is Manuela Gosner in car number 183, running down there in P12. The car ahead is that of Jacques Diver, because Manuela Gosner is effectively a back-marking car, having come into the pit lane at one point. So there is our race leader, having just gone through. Ignore the black and green car, because that's back-marking. There's P2, and there is P3. And Nico, alongside me, absolutely right, that Von Skeltermar is really reeling in Eric Chung now. Manuela Gosner does exactly the right thing and drives very, very professionally, and allows P2 and P3 to go. Allows P2 and P3 to go through. So good driving from Manuela Gosner, not holding up the chase that he's on for P2 between the red car that goes through there and this, the P3 car with the shark's teeth at the front of Fons Skeltermar. Where is the time going? Only just under 13 minutes of this race left to run. So Fons needs to get on it now. Eric Prinot does come in to take his drive-through penalty, as you can see on screen now. I wonder whether he will retire this car. No, I don't think so. It's ill handling, that's for sure.
The Renault Sport Trophy is part of the World Series by Renault this year, and it's a new opportunity for Pro-Am teams, a gateway to the GT, DTM, ELMS and WEC championships. Delay coverage of Race 1 from this brand new series from Spa-Francorchamps, Saturday, May the 30th at 8 in the evening. Live coverage of Race 2 the following day at 10:35 in the morning. And delay coverage of Race 3 the same evening at 7. The Dutch-based Supercar Challenge is a fixture on Motors TV. Round 2 from Zolder, the GT class, Saturday, May the 30th at 9:40 in the evening on the high-speed television channel. Single-make racing at its sleekest on Motors TV with the Porsche Super Cup Series, Spain and Monaco, Saturday, May the 30th at 10:30 in the evening on the high-speed television channel.
So this is the battle for P2. Eric Chung and Von Skeltermar. Von Skeltermar, the best of the gentleman drivers to show, have no doubt. And through the chicane they go. 11.5 minutes left to run. Fons is going to line up Eric Chung. The 198 car becomes the focus of his target sights. And Fons is going to have to try and find a way through as out goes Gautam Singhania in car number 180. Oh, what brought that about? Nothing other than a complete wobble there, and very nearly wiped out the front of Paul van Loonhout as well. Now, I think he kept it out of the wall, but just. And here comes the charge then, and the challenge on Eric Chung. They give each other racing room, and Fons has gone through. He harried him and he pressurized him. There was a bit of contact between the two. So Fons Skeltermar moves up into P2, but with the 10.5 minutes we've got left in the race, the likelihood of him getting on terms of Jacques Diver, who's leading this race, unless Jacques makes a huge error, is pretty unlikely. I think P2 is the very, very best that Fons could aim for, which is still a great result, as Eric's wife looks on at his performance, and he'll be in for a telling off now, having lost P2 to Fons. So, yeah, he has a very nearly a 5.6 second margin, does Jacques Diver over Fons Skeltermar. So, you know, even if Fons, in the last 10 minutes, if it's a quali lap every single time, he's still not going to be able to get on terms with Jacques Diver, unless Jacques makes a mistake. Fons runs very wide there. He's going to have to keep an eye on track limits. He's been warned about track limits before. Don't want to compromise all the great work that he's done and find himself on the wrong end of a penalty for non-observation of track limits, and just a little bit sideways there as he's worked that car so very hard. And just as I say about track limits, another warning comes up for that very man, car number 177. Track limits and turn 11, a real problem here. Eric Chung is now P3, and this is how the overtake happened. There was a gap there. There's a touch between the two of them, or was there? I'm not sure, but Eric Chung certainly realized he was there, allowed him room, and Fons Skeltermar was able to go through. Here is Thomas Gostner, who is P5, chasing Tani Hanna. There is the Hanna car going through, and there the Thomas Gostner car. The Ineco MP racing driver, same as Eric Prinot, who is now into P10, having got past Manuela Gostner. So he's into the points. Hanna and Gostner, the speed difference between them you can see on screen. And if anything, Jacques Diver is increasing the margin. It's now up to 6 seconds. There's Tommy Lindroth. He's kind of on his own out there in P6. Not really making much of an impact on that car of Thomas Gostner. Both Eric Prinot and Paul van Loonhout being asked to head towards the steward's box at the end of the race. This for P8 is between Peter Guerk and Kriton Lendoudis. It's a Kessel versus AF Corsa battle, and that battle about to be joined by the Ineco MP pilot, Eric Prinot. And there is Davide Rigion watching the battles going on. Star racing driver he is, and a guest of Ferrari here for the big weekend of racing at Mugello circuit. Jacques Diver's on a mission now. 7.3 seconds the margin between himself and P2 now. Just going to keep an eye on the gap between Skeltermar and Chung, just in case Fons Skeltermar has got a bit of an issue. This is Peter Guerk and Kriton Lendoudis then. Whether Fons has just pushed his car too hard and the tyres really are dropping off a cliff for him. And he's having to, with all his might, control that car. Jacques Diver is untroubled at the front with a 7-second margin. Guerk is in trouble though, as Kriton Lendoudis tries to line him up here, and they're going to have Eric Prinot for company in but a few meters' time as they all head down this long start-finish straight towards the right-hander, which is turn 1 here at Mugello. Heavy braking from Peter Kirk, trying to go up the inside is Kriton Lendudis, not quite close enough to be able to make a pass there, but is undoubtedly worrying that car ahead. There's no question about that. Into the Kessel garage we go, because they're watching this fraught battle just as much as we are. Under 6 minutes left to run. And trying also to buy into this is Eric Prinot, who's hoping that these two, and of course what it is doing as they continue to battle, it is allowing Prinot, who's returning from a drive-through penalty, it's allowing him to buy into this battle also. And if he's wise, he'll allow them just to keep warring between themselves and be ready to pick up any pieces that should come awry. Well, Jacques Diver is nearly in another town in terms of the margin of comfort. He has 7.7 seconds to the good. So the gap between Gurk and Lendudis is, you know, hovering around the 2.5, 3 tenths. But the Kessel driver, Gurk, is defending well. And Kriton Lendudis finding out that actually the Mugello circuit, Kriton Lendudis has experience of the Mugello circuit, as we see a retirement from Gautam Singhania as he walks away. Ronnie Kessel on the right-hand side of that picture. So sad to see that Gautam Singhania is out. He was running in P12, but I was saying that Kriton Lendudis has got experience of the Mugello circuit, having been here in former Finale Mondiali events and has driven the circuit. A long scream across the timing line now on the start-finish straight before the little uphill section before the right-hander, which is turn 1. And Kriton is certainly not close enough to be able to... or is he? Again, Peter Kirk takes a completely different line around turn 1, but he's able to carry more momentum, and on the exit, that's where he scores. And Eric Prinot still trying to buy into the battle as well. We've got 4 minutes left to run. 2, maybe 3 more laps to come in this, the first of the Ferrari Challenge races across this weekend. We're watching the Copa Shell drivers. Been a fairly dramatic race, that's for sure. Certainly first and middle part of the race. It seems to have quietened down a little bit now. Been the commentator's curse, if ever there was one. So Diver leads from von Skeltermar and Eric Chung, but we continue to watch this battle because it is the closest battle out there on track at the moment, and it is for P8 between Peter Gurk, who is currently P8, Kriton Lendudis, who is P9, and Eric Prinot, who is P10. And again, looking all over the back of the Gurk car is Lendudis. Trying just to harry Peter Gurk into making a mistake. The Kessel driver, though, has driven faultlessly, truthfully, in terms of his defence, and hasn't looked troubled by Lendudis. All the pressure that Lendudis continues to mount upon the back end of that 178 car is not causing him a problem. Eric Prinot gets ever closer to this battle. And very soon, Lendudis is going to be defending. Here is Jacques Diver, our race leader. Von Skeltermar, who is P2. P3, Eric Chung. So some super slow-mos of those 3 as a disaster for Eric Prinot. The tyre has utterly exploded. And you can see the damage that that has caused to the right-hand side of that car. The tyre has absolutely expired and left great swathes of rubber across the track. Now, that was... I mean, he's certainly been pushing that car, and that's where it goes. Well, credit to Eric for being able to hold on to that. And, well, it's been one heck of a race for Eric Prinot, which ends with an exploded tyre. Here is our race leader, Jacques Diver. Von Skeltermaar is P2. We are now on the last lap, and just look how they're having to try and avoid the debris of that rubber. Jacques Diver, an 8.5 second advantage he has over P2. Extraordinary margin that he's had. So this, the final lap of what has been, I think, eventful is a good word to use. It has been an eventful race. It's going to be Diver, Skeltermaar, Eric Chung. Barring any rubber-associated disasters, we're on board with Jacques Diver now as he goes into this downhill section. Kisses the apex on the left-hander. A quick blast of throttle now before he takes his foot off again for the right-hander. Fairness, I think he's going through there as near flat as he possibly can. So been a masterclass of what to do when you're out there on your own from Jacques Diver, who's now increased his margin to some 10.5 seconds over Von Skeltermaar. Von's in sequence has 2 seconds over Eric Chung in P3, but it's all about Jacques Diver, the Kessel Racing star, who is going to take yet another win. I think this brings his tally to 3 in the Ferrari Challenge. His first win came in Turkey last year. As around the final turn he goes, he will head towards the checkered flag. Here he comes, our race winner in race 1, Copa Shell star. His hand goes out of the window. Jacques Diver takes the checkered flag to win. To take P2, here comes Von Skeltermaar. He flashes his lights, a great result for Fons. And there, look at the debris. P3, Eric Chung. Tanny Hanna takes P4, Thomas Gostner P5, Tommy Lindroth P6. There is our P2 driver, Von Skeltermaar. Here comes Christian Kitsch to take P7. Then it was the Gurk and Lendudis battle that we were watching. And, well, it's raged and continued to rage all the way towards the checkered flag. But it's been fantastic driving from Peter Gurk, who's held Kriton Lendudis at bay. So Gurk will take P8. Lendudis will take P9. Jacques Diver leads the championship on 52 points from Eric Prinot on 40 and Gautam Singhania on 26. Von Skeltermaar's charge up the points chart sees him P4 on 24, but Jacques Diver with a 12-point advantage going into race 2 tomorrow. The rest of the order there, as you can see. Cars will grid up, safety car will peel off into the pit lane following them going around the final turn 15, which is Bucina. And then they will be sent off on their way, assuming the race steward happy with the grid lineup. Loflad yesterday with a fantastic start. He'll be hoping to duplicate that today. Safety car does peel off now into the pit lane, so stand by. Von Skeltermaar looking ever so racy. He is right on the back of Eric Chung. They're all bunching up very, very close. This could be a real fight to turn 1, the right-hander, which is the San Donato turn. We throw the lights up to the top of the screen for you on the left-hand side. When they go from red to green, we will be away and racing. Let's go as Von Skeltermaar does try to take a dive on the Eric Chung car. Jacques Diver looking very racy as well. It's Loflad, Chung and Diver as they head towards turn 1. Eric Prinot with another blistering start. Now Prinot going all the way around the outside. Not the fastest line through there, but he holds on. It puts him in the perfect position for the next turn, and he goes through, I think, into P3. Jacques Diver being hung out to dry a little bit there by Eric Prinot. And there is von Skeltermar, who tried to psych up his start right at the beginning. It perhaps didn't work. Loflad leads, and now Prinot's trying to take P2. Prinot with his DTM Kinch car of number 126, but Kinch in the best place for the next turn. Von Skeltermar also trying to make some progress as well. He has the Tanny Hanna car in front of him. 35-minute race duration for this race 2 in the Copa Shell category of Ferrari Challenge. It's Loflad, Chung, then Prinot and Diver. And Thomas Gostner taking a look up the inside of Christian Kinch. Whether there was a gap there or not, but Kinch is right in the middle of the track now, having been turned around. Thankfully, he gets to safety and is able to turn the car around and continue on his way, but a long way back down the order now. We'll get that in replay, I'm sure, but not utterly convinced that there was a gap there for Thomas Gostner to go into. He certainly tried, and that ended up turning the car of Christian Kinch around. Under pressure now is Jacques Diver from Paul van Loonhout. Jacques Diver in car number 192. And Tanny Hanna looking pretty lively also. So they complete one full lap then. And it's a real drag race to turn 1 now. With Tanny Hanna and Paul van Loonhout absolutely side by side there. And Tanny Hanna goes through. Van Loonhout just takes a little bit of evasive steering action there. And Tanny Hanna moves himself up into P5. Next in his target sights will be Jacques Diver, who's currently P4. And is this a replay of the Kinch and Thomas Gostner incident? And on board there with Gostner. I would think that Christian will feel a little bit hard done by that, to be honest, and he has had to retire the car. He's in the pit lane, so that's his race done and dusted. What a shame. Might be able to get it back out again. We will see. Meantime, we're continuing to follow this battle, which we saw on screen for P6, but meantime we go back to our race leader Thomas Loflad, then it's Eric Chung, then it is Eric Prinot, and Jacques Diver is P4. So von Skeltermar continuing to reel in the Paul van Loonhout car. This is for P6. Tanny Hanna, as he's been released from Paul van Loonhout, is up the road now in P5, trying to chase down Jacques Diver, as Fons just takes a look up the inside here, and Paul van Loonhout, to be fair, gives him racing room, so he goes back a further place, and von Skeltermar moves up. Fastest lap comes from Eric Chung on lap 2, a 1:57.079. He's currently in P2. Drive-through penalty for Thomas Gostner then on that issue we saw with Christian Kinch. So Thomas Gostner then going to have to take a drive-through penalty. That's going to really hurt his P9 position, that's for sure. He's going to come back out right at the back of the pack, I would suggest. So immediate penalty from our race stewards. Felt that the overtake on Christian Kinch, which sadly appears to have ended Christian Kinch's race because he's in the pit lane, means that Thomas Gostner has a drive-through penalty. So Loflad leads. He has some 1.6 second margin over Eric Chung in P2, and it's behind Eric Chung really where they're all battling. There is confirmation of that drive-through penalty for car number 161, which has to be taken within 3 laps of notification. Now, that affects, effectively, Gautam Singhania, who is behind. So Singhania won't be trying too hard to get past Thomas Gostner because it will be completely academic, as he has got to serve a drive-through penalty. Here is our race leader then, Thomas Loflad, who is 1.7 seconds up the road from P2, the Starlev Squadra Corsa driver. Followed by Eric Chung, P2, and Eric Chung certainly is in the targets of Eric Prinot. So is the rest of the pack there. Let's go on board with Tommy Lindroth, who's wearing our helmet camera, and you can see him hard at work here as he runs just onto the curbs there. Powers out of the final turn and heads towards the start-finish line. And Jacques Diver now sets fastest lap of the race thus far, a 1:56.910. 1:56.910. So Jacques Diver, who's currently down there in P4, tyres up to operating temperature, and now he is going for it. Compare that to Loflad, who was a 1:57.028. He's certainly quicker than Eric Chung in P2, but Eric Prinot is certainly quicker than Eric Chung, so P3 quicker than P2 at the moment. There's Tommy Lindroth, who we were on board with, wearing our helmet camera just a few moments ago. Loflad with a 2-second margin up the road. He's built himself a nice little cushion. Ghostner, not yet having been in to serve his drive-through penalty, is still running down there in P9. In fact, just behind the Tommy Lindroth car that we were on board with just a few moments ago. There is Tommy Lindroth. The gap to Paul van Loenhout, as you can see, is 7/10. Meantime, this is Eric Chung, who's looking just a little bit wayward and offering up an opportunity to Eric Prinot as we see a replay of the start here. Now, Prinot got an absolutely brilliant start, it has to be said. The gap opened up for him at the front as von Skeltermar dived to the left-hand side of the grid. We're on board with Tommy Lindroth. And Tommy looking from left to right, and there you can see on the right-hand side through his windscreen how Eric Prinot was able to just dive up the inside there. He really had got some power there. Also going through was Tanny Hanna, who had a brilliant start, as we see Tanny Hanna on screen now, kicking up some dust ahead of von Skeltermar at the moment. Super slow-mo replay brought to you. There's our race leader, Thomas Loflad. And then it is Eric Chung and Eric Prinot. And I reckon that's the closest battle at the front end of the pack at the moment between these two. The battle for second position. Our director is stuck with it because Eric Prinot now is going to be in the wrong place for the next turn. Eric Chung knows that, shuts the door effectively. We see Thomas Ghostner come into the pit lane now to serve his drive-through penalty. There's the back end of that drive-through penalty happening. He will filter back out into the order, I would think, probably right at the very, very back of the pack. And Christian Kinch has got going again as well, and he had a period of time in the pit lane. So the last lap, Eric Chung did a 1:58.208. Eric Prinot did a 1:57.987. So his intentions are clear. Wants to get past the Eric Prinot car. Wants to get past the Eric Chung car. But overtaking here at Mugello is not easy. And as we saw from the highlights yesterday, sometimes you have to be extremely forceful. And if you are too forceful, clearly that's going to carry a penalty. A penalty to yourself in terms of potentially wiping out your race. And potentially wiping out the race of others as well, as we saw from yesterday. Thomas Loflad, though, untroubled at the moment, certainly in the lead with a 3.26 margin. Around the Correnteo turn, head up now towards the Biondetti chicane. And here's how close in super slow-mo Prinot is getting to Eric Chung. And what he's doing is just keeping the pressure on Chung, so he'll be hoping that Chung will break under that pressure and make a mistake, and Eric will be through. Loflad, Chung, Prinot, and Diver and Hanna occupying the first 5 places in this race.
The best sports car racing from the United Kingdom is to be found on Motors TV. Alexander Sims and Marco Attard are the GT3 Championship leaders after the first 3 rounds of the British GT season. Now tune in to round 4 from Silverstone with live coverage from the various categories. Sunday, May the 31st at 1 in the afternoon on the high-speed television channel. The TCR International Series has fast carved a role for itself on Motors TV, and we've got delayed coverage of the 2 races from the Salzburg Ring in Austria. Watch the likes of Stefano Camini, Pepe Oriola and Gianni Morbidelli on the high-speed television channel. Sunday, May the 31st at 7:30 in the evening. Reigning champion Antonio Cairoli has not had things all his own way in the MXGP category, whereas in MX2, Jeffrey Hurlings has been in a class of his own this season. See what happens when the series moves on to France to Villars-sous-Écot for round 8. Delayed coverage of Moto 1 and Moto 2, Sunday, May the 31st at 8:45 and 10:25 in the evening, respectively.
Head down towards turn 1. Don't think Prinot is close enough to be able to try and take a move here. Taking a very different line to Eric Chung out, but not close enough. So clearly just biding his time. Still plenty of racing still to come. We have 24.5 minutes left of the race. But Jacques Diver is now, once again, having set some really good laps. A 1:57.603. He's beating Eric Prinot in terms of lap time. So Diver is buying back into this battle. Of course, took the race win yesterday. Will certainly like to secure another podium today, if that's possible. At the moment, he's not in a podium place. There, the Ineco MP driver. Eric Prinot, who is P3. And Chung is just able to eke out a little bit of a margin now. Probably gapped equal back now between Chung, Prinot and Diver. Here over the last 3 laps, you can see the difference between P2 and P3. And Diver hoping to buy back into that. So there's our race leader just going through. And Loflad at the front of the pack has just under 4 seconds cushion over P2, 3 and 4. There, the fastest lap from Jacques Diver, a 1:56.910. That was set actually on lap 3, but Jacques Diver clearly back into business now. So Loflad now with 4.3 seconds. We're on board with Jacques Diver. Down through the gearbox into turn 1, the right-hander. You can see Eric Prinot and Eric Chung fighting ahead. Off the gas. Takes the apex by taking the curb both in and out of that chicane. Fastest lap now has come from Thomas Loflad, a 1:56.893. So despite the fact he's built a reasonable cushion, he's not letting it rest at that. He's continuing to push just as hard. Dust being picked up there from, or kicked up there from someone. Eric Chung and Eric Prinot, the last lap round, as we do now see a retirement for Christian Kinch. He was into the pits earlier, the Lueg Sportivo driver, following that contact with Thomas Gosner. But he got into the pit lane, was back out again, but sadly we see him in the pit lane now, and that probably spells the end of his race. Thomas Gosner is back down there in P15. Behind, interestingly, Corinna Gosner and Meluella Gosner, who occupy P13 and 14, respectively. There's Eric Chung then, Hong Kong-based driver, who is also the owner of a Corsa Formula 1 car as well. My memory serves me, I think it's that of current Ferrari Formula 1 driver Kimi Räikkönen from his previous spell in Ferrari. So there, as they head towards the start-finish line, it's P2, 3 and 4 that you see on screen. So interestingly, as opposed to yesterday, and indeed in qualifying, no warnings have been issued yet about track limits. However, it is only a question of time as tyre degradation will play a part in that, and lines will get more than a little less consistent on some of the exits. Good point, well made. So von Skeltermaar Still trying to get onto the back of Tanny Hanna, who is P5 at the moment. Skeltermar is P6. Now, Skeltermar passed Paul van Loenhout to go into P6, but van Loenhout is now looking just a little bit more racy, if I'm honest. And I reckon Fons is stuck right in the middle of this, isn't he? He's the hunter and being hunted also. So whilst he's trying to get on terms with Tanny Hanna, he's being ever mindful that he's got to defend his position at the moment. And Tommy Lindroth in P8 is trying to buy into the battle as well. Tommy Lindroth being run by the Baron service team now and being pushed and motivated by former champion Philippe Baron, who knows a thing or two about Ferrari Challenge racing, that's for sure. Hugely successful driver. Hoping to see him back at the wheel of a car. Maybe not when we head off next to Budapest, but perhaps at Paul Ricard in France. So Tommy Lindroth, who wears our helmet camera there, taking quite a lot of curb. Rattles the fillings, that does. And he is now right on the back of Paul van Loenhout. So as van Loenhout's trying to get the better of Fons Skeldermar, he's also very conscious of the fact that he has Tommy Lindroth right behind him also. Through this chicane they go now, taking curbs in and out. And it is the final Bucina turn that they head towards now. Gautam Singhania is not that far behind Tommy Lindroth either. That's the Paul van Loenhout car that we're watching. It's got a wobble on, didn't it, in the middle there, and I think he's going to fall prey to Tommy Lindroth now. Lost just a fraction of momentum through that final turn 15, and Tommy Lindroth is thinking, yeah, I can have this place away. He's going to harry Paul van Loenhout all the way to turn 1. Lindroth goes for the outside, will try and cut up the inside if a gap should appear, but a gap does not appear. So Lindroth has to maintain the pressure on the back of that Paul van Loenhout car and just try and find the opening up and just somewhere where he can put his nose right alongside Paul van Loenhout and go up into P7. This, of course, is all helping Fons Skeltermar, who now isn't having to worry too much about defending from Paul van Loenhout and can recommence his battle on the Tanny Hanna car that's ahead of him. So we're on board with Tommy Lindroth as he wears our helmet camera. Paul van Loenhout taking a wide line through there, and Lindroth is through. Didn't need asking twice. We saw that gap open up from the helmet camera of Tommy Lindroth's car. Paul van Loenhout with a error there, to be truthful. A gap just opened up for Tommy Lindroth, and the constant pressure that he'd maintained on Paul van Loenhout paid off because he was able to seize that opportunity. Gautam Singhania is the next that Paul van Loenhout's going to have to worry about now. And here we can see it. The gap just opened up, and Tommy Lindroth was through. Didn't need inviting twice. So he will be next charging towards Fons Skeltermar, who in turn is on to Tanny Hanna. But now Gautam Singhania, having seen Tommy Lindroth get past Paul van Loenhout, will be thinking maybe he can buy into that and do the same. Okay, here's Tanny Hanna and Fons Skeltermar. The arguing going over P5. Just about half distance of this 35-minute race as Skeltermar lines up Tanny Hanna. Nothing doing. Hanna has got it all completely under control. Finished yesterday P4 in his race, and just one further down. The last lap, as you can see, the difference between the two. Fons is quicker, but it's all very well being quicker. You've still got to find a way past. And just wonder whether Tanny Hanna is looking a little bit more ragged now as he kicks up a bit of dust. And here at the front, end of the grid, P3 is Eric Prinot, who's not been able to make anything on the battle for second position, which is being occupied by the all-red 458 of Eric Chung at the moment, the AF Corsa driver. Jacques Diver getting ever closer, the Kessel Racing star, who took the win yesterday. Prinot one's really, really wide. Now, as my colleague Nico alongside me mentioned, that as we get into the second half of this race, expect the track limits warnings to maybe be coming through, as the tyre degradation is such that the drivers are not able to propel their car on the tight line that they are when more grip is available. So Prinot we watch then, who's in P3, is the best of the gentleman drivers as well. But Eric Chung, at the moment, utterly faultless in the defence of his P2. Hasn't really looked terribly troubled by Eric Prinot. Prinot and Chung. Top four drivers with a 10-second gap over Tanny Hanna and von Skeltermar, which means that their battle for P5 is probably always going to stay at P5, isn't it? Not going to be able to close that gap that exists. Just looking, Jacques Diver, certainly just over 10 seconds back to Tanny Hanna in P5. So this pack at the front, if you like, have really broken clear. And the one that is up the road, may I report the gap of some 6.5 seconds to Eric Chung. Thomas Loflad, we've hardly seen anything of him on camera, and that's because he's, well, very nearly in Bologna now. Right, Eric Prinot then is shortly going to not only have to focus on trying to get past Eric Chung, but focus on having to defend from Jacques Diver. And Diver now is closer than he's been to Eric Prinot for a long time. So Diver has, well, he's been consistently lapping very, very quickly. And now, can you see, almost instantly, as Eric Prinot is having to focus on defending, that, of course, Eric Chung means he can get up the road. So Jacques Diver now wants to be back on the podium in race 2, took the win in race 1. Really taking a lot of curb. So Diver then in the target sights is the Ineco MP driver ahead. Carries the perfect amount of speed into that final turn. It's von Skeltermar on Tanny Hanna, and now Gautam Singhania. Having got past Paul van Loenhout, he's now lining up Tommy Lindroth. So Gautam Singhania, who we saw in the highlights out in the gravel at one point yesterday, driving really, really well now, and is lining up Tommy Lindroth. So this is the battle that we're watching for P7, and Singhania up the inside of Tommy Lindroth. But Tommy will try and come back on the undercut here if Singhania can't control it, but he did. He'd got the grip available to him. Clearly had the speed, and he goes through on Tommy Lindroth. So Gautam Singhania now P7, and Tommy Lindroth is P8. So Gautam Singhania will now fancy his chances on von Skeltermar, who's ahead. And here in replay, then he just lined that up absolutely perfectly. Now, it was here that I was concerned that he was not going to be able to hold on to that turn, having carried so much speed in. Tommy Lindroth responds, but Gautam Singhania with a incredibly fast sector 1. He's obviously chasing von Skeltermar now. This is Jacques Diver that we look in super slow-mo. And there is Thomas Gosner, who, having served his drive-through penalty, finds himself down there in P15. Beg your pardon. I was going to say he'd managed to get past Corinna Gosner, but he did it in a very unorthodox way, which sent him out into the beach, and so now he really is out on his own, isn't he? Although he's still ahead, according to the timing screen, of Christian Hobone. So that excursion out into the gravel was still not enough for Christian Hobone to get past him, sadly. Right, the battle for second as that hots up once again now, as the charge from Jacques Diver seems to have gone away. It's all down to tyre management, or a lot of it is. And Eric Prinot then scrubs a bit of speed, to be fair, because he was so wide there, and that's allowed Diver to get a little bit closer once again. This is going to rage over the final 11 minutes of this race, I feel sure. You can hear the tyres, the Pirelli tyres, absolutely squealing under protest. As Chung slows now, just a little, and Prinot just thought that he could get in there. Now, whether Chung just missed a gear or something, but there was a momentary slow, wasn't there? But now, Jacques Diver is back on Eric Prinot. So Prinot now is right in the middle of this sandwich. It's a battle over, effectively, P2, 3, and 4. P2 is Eric Chung, P3 is Eric Prinot, and P4 is Jacques Diver. Now Prinot has had to refocus his mind towards defence. That allows Eric Chung to get up the road. He's certainly never going to get on terms with Thomas Loflad, who leads the race by nearly 9 seconds. Diver takes a look now, and I think he's done enough. If he's got the momentum here, Jacques Diver, no, not quite. Would have to remain utterly committed to the outside line. He's going to try and do so. And if he can just keep his nose in front, but unfortunately he couldn't, he would have been perfectly set up for the next turn through the chicane. Wasn't quite able. Prinot carried just a little bit more momentum. Diver may have been able to preserve his tyres more than Prinot, of course, in his quest to beat Chung. Prinot has really taken a lot out of his, so whether, I mean, certainly every lap we've seen Jacques drive has been neat and tidy, and this in replay. And Prinot firmly shutting the door. Now, every time that Diver tries a move like that, it's taking more out of the rubber. So, just for the moment, it means that Eric Prinot can breathe a sigh of relief and try once again to get on the back of Eric Chung. Every single lap, Thomas Loflad increases his margin a little bit. And of course, whilst these three continue to battle, that will always be the case because he is untroubled at the front of the pack. Battle for fifth continues between von Skeltermar and Tanny Hanna, who it's certainly not been as exciting as that battle for P3 that we've been watching. Now Fons is certainly very, very close to Tanny Hanna. Gautam Singhania kicks up some dust as well. He's in P7. Tanny Hanna driving very, very well here. The AF Corsa driver versus the Kessel Racing driver. It's a battle between the two big, big teams in Ferrari Challenge. AF Corsa, of course, the team run by Amato Ferrari, is all over the back of Tanny Hanna is von Skeltermar. He caused him to lose a bit of momentum there, but Tanny Hanna knows that this man means business, and Gautam Singhania is into this as well now. It's going to be another three-way fight all over P5. I think there was just a little bit of a touch there from Fons onto Tanny Hanna. It was certainly non-intentional. But this is very lively. And, well, I'd be amazed if it stays the way it is at the moment, because Tanny Hanna is really under pressure now. Von Skeltermar has turned the wick up, and Gautam Singhania is trying to buy into it also as they round the final turn. Interestingly, von Skeltermar gets a warning flag. That will be for that little touch on Tanny Hanna. As I said, it was completely and totally non-malicious. When you're racing these cars at this speed, consistently, lap after lap, in this heat as well, bear in mind, these drivers are no spring chickens, and that's a mistake from Hanna. But it's a brilliant save from Tanny Hanna as well, because Fons was not able to take advantage of it. So Tanny Hanna ran really, really wide. And now Fons tries to buy into it again, and is he alongside? No, he's not. Discretion has to play the better part of valor there, but now Hanna does run wide again. He's getting ever so scrappy out there, and Fons, they touch 2, 3, 4 times. Oh, they take out Gautam Singhania. That is an absolute disaster. The three of them are probably wiped out of this race. That's Nicole, Jacques Diver's wife, partner, that was looking on. Safety car is out. Gautam Singhania's car looks to be extremely damaged. Now here's the contact. 1, 2, 3. They're on the grass. And Gautam Singhania, who, to be fair, was just trying to get past, as we can see, Nicky Kadai there from the Kessel Racing, who's von Skelterma's driver coach. Also in there is, that's Eric Chung's wife. Safety car now, Thomas Loflad. You really have to feel for, he had 8.5 seconds margin, and that's going to count as naught now as everyone bunches up behind the safety car. We have 5 and a bit minutes left of the race to run, dependent upon how quickly they can clear that lot up. We're certainly not going to get many laps of racing left, if any. What a shame. And there, thank goodness, Gautam Singhania is out of the car and is okay. A little bit of pain to maybe his arm and his leg as well. But he really was the innocent bystander in that and got caught up in it. And there is Corinna Gosner and Thomas Gosner. 3 Gosners all together in this race, and we'll see another Gosner in the Trofeo Pirelli race later this afternoon as David Gosner takes to the track. Well, the clock has ticked down to 0 now, and that will mean that whether they'll allow the drivers to take the checkered flag at the completion of this lap. Safety car there with the lights still ablaze, as you can see, has backed them all up. And, well, we didn't see the end of the race that we certainly expected and hoped for. So the safety car does peel off and allows the cars to take the checkered flag to end the race. Be no overtaking. Race done and dusted, which means Thomas Loflad takes the win from Eric Chung and Eric Prenot P2 and P3. Best of the gentleman drivers was Eric Prenot on P3. Well, as soon as the safety car came out, it was under question whether we would be able to get any racing laps back. And we didn't. And hopefully we'll just get time to see the celebrations with the champagne on the podium before the program has to close. Superman. Well, Prenot has gone. Chung and Loflad haven't. Loflad comes back for another lap on Eric Chung now. Congratulations to them all. What a shame that the race ended under the safety car, but after the Gautam Singhania, there was no question that that was going to be the case. Next race today, 13:25 GMT, Trofeo Pirelli, race 2 of the weekend. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you for the next race a little bit later this afternoon. Bye-bye for now. Bye.